Hello, this is Angel Michael. Welcome to my channel this day, evening, whichever happen to be that you be listening to this video. Today I have a very important video. I've been kind of putting this off. I've been busy for the past few weeks, but this is really an important issue. I found this article by the newamerican.com. Liberals may win control of the largest U.S. Protestant denomination. Written by Alex Newman. I didn't want to not talk about this subject. Even Global Man, who's not even a Christian, has mentioned this. And I want to read this article to you, and as I go along, I will explain some of my feelings about it, because I'm a Southern Baptist myself. Okay, now, this was from June the 5th. The Southern Baptist Convention, America's largest Protestant denomination, and a historically very conservative wing of the Christian church in the United States, is on the verge of falling to organize progressive social justice forces and anti-Trump activists. According to media reports and insiders involved in this battle, one leading opponent of the scheme has even blasted what he described as the evangelical deep state, working to affect the church with unbiblical ideologies. The goals of these forces, dubbed are neo-Marxist by some critics, including softening and eventually squashing of Christian opposition to homosexuality, normalizing gender confusion in the church, promoting left-wing politics at all levels of the government, fueling constant obsession and angst over race and gender, facilitating mass Islamic migration into the United States, and much, much more. Most rank-and-file Southern Baptists remain completely oblivious to what is happening, insiders said, but the implications for the church, our culture, the nation, and politics could be earth-shattering. Still, the battle is not over. Critics of the controversial progressive effort to take over the SBC are fighting back hard ahead of the annual Southern Baptist Convention meeting that happens in June 12th and 13th. Unfortunately, this already passed. I wasn't able to go. I would love to go to some of these meetings. But anyway, among other tactics, conservatives within the denomination are pushing a resolution that would strongly condemn the unbiblical and Marxist-based so-called social justice movement. According to the text of the measure, social justice, by definition, is based on anti-biblical and destructive concepts from Marxist ideology. The measure also says social justice activism should be considered evil and represents a vehicle to promote abortion, homosexuality, gender confusion, and a host of other ideas that are antithetical to the gospel. The resolution also cites the Methodist and Episcopal denominations as a warning, noting that their membership numbers have collapsed following the embrace of social justice. The resolution proposed by Pastor Grady Arnold of Calvary Baptist Church in Texas would represent a devastating blow to the social justice forces seeking to hijack the SBC. The outcome of this battle remains uncertain. But Southern Baptist pastors and leaders are warning that if the progressives succeed, organized conservative Christianity in America may collapse. It's not an overstatement to say that the progressive movement is on the verge of taking control of the SBC, Pastor Grady told the New American. They are very friendly with liberal theology, with feminism, with the LGBTQ movement, and so on. They may not push those views, but they're friendly to them. Of course, the next step is to embrace those views, a continuing softening until it turns into an embrace. While Pastor Arnold is not sure whether his resolution will pass, and suspects there may even be an effort to prevent a vote on it, he said it is already accomplishing part of what he hoped would happen. Whether it passes or not, the purpose is to wake people up to the fact that this is happening. He said most of these churches in the heartland, most of them are rural churches, and most have had no idea what's going on. He said many of the pastors from smaller rural churches have other jobs. My father did as well. They have busy lives, and therefore they're not very involved in the inner workings of the Southern Baptist Convention. That has given the highly organized progressive forces a major advantage in terms of furthering their agenda and their power within the denomination. Arnold has been working hard to raise awareness, including appearances on top conservative radio programs such as Janet Medfield today. My fear, now this is quoting from Alex Newman, is that if progressives get in control of the Southern Baptist Convention, the Summit Church pastor, J.D. Greer, is one of their guys. J.D. Greer is a progressive. The people in the heartland are going to start seeing this stuff infiltrated the literature in the bookstores, Arnold said. But by then it will be too late, and these progressives will be running the show. At that point, the response will be too little too late. We need to let people know now. People didn't know social justice was being pushed in some of our churches, but now they do. Among other concerns, Arnold noted that the progressive forces in the SBC were pushing divisive far-left narratives such as white privilege, white guilt, social justice, sexual minorities, feminism, liberal theology, and other anti-Christian ideas. On the surface, some of these guys can even look conservative, the Texas pastor continued, but if you dig down, you will find something else. Arnold also said that progressives were in process of destroying the conservatives who stand in their way. These social justice people, they find somebody they don't like, then they create a narrative, they find a flashpoint, and then they attack. And that's exactly what they did. I'll get into it in a few minutes. But every leader that stands up against these progressives, they will find something to attack them with to try to discredit them, and destroy them. And that's exactly what these people are doing. In this case, it has to do with feminism. Feminism was unheard of in the SBC 15 years ago, but now it's infiltrated. The vote for president at the upcoming annual meeting will be crucial, Arnold said. Many conservatives and lifelong SBC stalwarts are hoping to elect Dr. Ken Hemphill, former SBC Convention Seminary president. Even people from the progressive side don't have much bad to say about him, said Arnold, who will be in Dallas for the annual meeting. It's all going to be about numbers, how many for each side. Another one of the SBC leaders working to expose and oppose the progressive agenda is Reverend Thomas Littleton, an outspoken Southern Baptist pastor in Alabama, who has spoken and written extensively on the infiltration of the LGBT ideology into even into conservative Christian circles. We could not be closer to an entire collapse of the organized Christian right, and it's clear that these leaders may have been complicit with the powers determined to bring it down, he told the New American. In some cases, they are the powers. Littleton has also raised awareness of these issues through his articles and his appearances on top radio shows like Janet Medfield. Among other concerns, Littleton says that seminaries and campus ministries are under the influence of a network he dubs the evangelical deep state, are becoming saturated with social justice narratives. In fact, many of these movements are even working on queering the Christian faith, he said. One of the key players he identifies in the move to fundamentally change the SBC and other historically conservative denominations, such as the Presbyterian Church in America, is the so-called Gospel Coalition. The alliance, which brings together various leaders from ostensibly conservative churches, sounds very conservative at a first glance, but through alliances with controversial groups and affiliation with controversial activists, the fruits that is emerging is a major threat to the Christian faith, Littleton argues. Most people in Gospel Coalition-affiliated churches have no idea what's going on. A key individual leader involved in the Gospel Coalition in the effort to inject this social justice agenda into Christian churches and the SBC in particular is Russell Moore. who serves as president of the SBC Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission, or the ELRC. He is mentioned in Arnold's anti-social justice resolution for bringing the church for a crisis point. Okay, so remember the bad guys here are the Gospel Coalition, and this Russell Moore is the person we have to be concerned with. Moore's record on various issues has sparked alarm among more than a few conservatives. In 2013, Moore took over the ERLC and promptly declared that the culture war was over and that we lost, explained Littleton. Now the social justice rhetoric is everywhere in the church, on race, on women, on politics, and everything else. This is really bad, very dangerous. Among other controversies, Moore has been fiercely critical of both Donald Trump and Ted Cruz, widely seen as the favorite in the 2016 Republican presidential candidates by Christians and conservatives. After Trump won the nomination, Moore urged Christians to vote for an independent or third-party candidate, a move that was widely perceived as a boost to Hillary. I want to interject here that anybody who wants to push somebody like Hillary Clinton is wicked, vile, disgusting, because Clinton is the most vile person you can imagine. There is too much information out there to even touch on her. She is an elitist, she's a globalist, she's a homosexual, she is anti-Christian, she's for abortion. I mean, nobody who's a real Christian would ever vote for Hillary Clinton. That's just my comment. She's for pro-homosexual marriage, pro-open borders, she's against religious liberty, she's against guns, anything that's decent, God-fearing, that's American, she's against. So why would you want to have anybody who is a pro-Clinton in your church or your denomination? This guy is an abomination. Reverend Moore, what is his name? Reverend Littleton had this to say, that many of the men graduating from many of the conservative seminaries these days who claim to be conservative but are now progressives. He says many of those involved in the Gospel Coalition have been at the forefront of this Never Trump movement among evangelicals. Some openly work to sabotage former Alabama Chief Justice Roy Moore in his U.S. Senate campaign, even though evidence clearing him of the vile false allegations was coming out every day, Littleton said. Now, the same playbook the progressive used against Roy Moore has been deployed against Paige Patterson. Paige Patterson is the widely respected former president of the Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary, who was recently taken out based on what was more than just a few experts and insiders say are false allegations. The accusation is that he tried to cover up a sexual assault in 2003 by encouraging a female student not to report an alleged rape to police. But now evidence, including from a letter from the victim herself, seem to confirm that Patterson was not even involved. Numerous high-profile leaders, including Dr. Alex McFarland, the former president of Southern Evangelical Seminary, have suggested that the takedown of the conservative stalwart may have been driven by ulterior motives. There are factions in the SBC that have political agendas, theological agendas, and cultural agendas, McFarland was quoted saying. I would be heartbroken to think that any opportunity was taken here under the guise of pursuing truth, when in reality it was just an opportunity to leverage this great denomination for political ends. According to Littleton, these progressives are now turning to the template they used to destroy Roy Moore and use it against Paige Patterson. This is the exact same template, Littleton said. What happened to Paige is cruel and wrong. More alarming is the so-called Revoice movement, which is working to normalize homosexuality and gender confusion by treating those issues as part of a person's identity. On the Revoice website, the mission is defined as supporting, encouraging, and empowering gay, lesbian, same-sex attracted, and other LGBT Christians so they can flourish while obscuring the historic Christian doctrines of marriage and sexuality. The Revoice Conference takes the whole language of the Gospel Coalition on LGBTQ to the next level, explained Littleton. They hit critical race theory, white privilege, sexual minorities, feminism, the deification of MLK, Martin Luther King, and so on. Now, just in time for Gay Pride Month, Revoice is being promoted by the Gospel Coalition. There are direct links between the Gospel Coalition and Revoice in terms of who is involved in these. This movement was seen as a reformed theological movement, Littleton said. The problem is it's highly ecumenical, highly emergent, and is highly political. While it has been masked as theologically conservative, it is not conservative in any way. This whole movement of dwelling on minorities, the notion that the church is filled with oppressive minorities, including sexual minorities, that we need quotas and so on, this is all really nefarious, he continued. It's a weird approach that it's already embedded in the seminaries, and we're starting to see in our churches. Social justice curricula is already in the seminaries. This stuff was on the fringes for a long time, but it's working its way toward the core, and now it's close to the heart and soul of the last two conservative denominations of any size, the SBC and the PCA. Littleton argued that the Gospel Coalition, or at least parts of it, is really a progressive political movement with a very thin veneer of theology that is marketed as being theologically conservative, but is not. The mantra of the Gospel Coalition is that conservatives have ruined the gospel by being too conservative and political and waging a culture war, which is bullshit. Generally, what Christians are doing is providing a godly response to a culture war being waged against us. How is it that we're waging a war when all we're doing is responding? Good question. The other side, meanwhile, is responding by taking down major figures in the conservative movement. Now even I'm being called, this is the writer of the article talking here, being called mentally ill and a conspiracy theory just for calling this out, and everything I say is documented, Littleton added. Any leaders who speak out against this are going to have to count the cost, but this is not the time to hide under our desks, or institutionalized conservative Christianity in America will be gone forever. Already, though, there is some pushback, and it's growing, Littleton said. These are people within these denominations who really get it, he explained. And far more everyday Christians realize what's going on. The opposition will continue to grow. Even people outside the churches should be concerned about these developments, he added. When asked what Christians can do, Pastor Arnold from Texas, the leader behind the SBC resolution to condemn this social justice push, called for prayer and more. Prayer is needed, of course, but we need more than prayer. We also need action. First thing to do is to get informed. We're just now organizing, but the bottom line is this. Pray, learn about what's going on, and be ready to take action. This article is by Alex Newman, a contributor to the newamerican.com. He has a Twitter, and he's also on Facebook. Okay, this is a very, very compelling and important article I just got through reading. It is just like what's going on when if you watch the news, the progressives in society now are trying to get their dirty, greedy little paws in the church. And I don't have time to go through in this particular video, but there are also some Christian websites, and I think I've mentioned this in another video. The Sojourner magazine, and the president of the magazine is Jim Wallace. He received over $250,000 from George Soros, who is a billionaire. He's a fake Jew, a globalist. Well, everybody who knows anything about about globalism and about George Soros knows George Soros is one of the most despicable, disgusting people you can imagine. He's anti-Christian, anti-God, anti-family, anti-everything. He's a Zionist Jew, and he's nothing but a pig. This man has billions of dollars to give away to these progressive groups to basically try to destroy our country and help bring about the New World Order. And he's trying to subvert all the Christian, every Christian denomination. He started with the magazines. This guy from Sojourner actually admitted, Wallace admitted he took $250,000 from George Soros' foundation. Soros is behind the Black Lives Matter movement, behind the anti-Trumpers and all the different groups that you see on the news. George Soros is paying for all this. And there's proof out there. All you got to do is go to Craigslist, and they were at one point, and I don't know if they're still doing it or not, but they actually mentioned the organization, and all you do is do a paper trail and search on the internet and find out who's funding it. That they're being funded by George Soros, basically to cause riots and civil disobedience in this country, so they can declare martial law. I mean, that's fact. Just do your own research. Anyway, back to this article. So now we've got these neo-Marxist people that are in Southern Baptist churches who are trying to gain power and influence in the church. And, of course, I have some people that come to my site that are not Christian that say, well, what does this have to do with me? Well, if you are a decent person, whether you're a Christian or not, if we lose the largest Protestant denomination to liberalism, leftist ideology, this country is done for. I mean, without conservative Christians, even my MGTOW guys have got to understand this. Whether you agree or disagree with the churches, I know there's a lot of blue pill pastors out there who have no clue about what's going on. But at least Christian churches have helped hold back the tide of Marxism in this country. And when these progressives take over, you're losing all your rights. This is really very disconcerting to read stuff like this. As much as you may not like traditional people who are antithetical to men's freedom, it's going to be 10 times worse if these progressives take over the big denominations. The Methodists have already fallen. The Episcopals have already fallen to liberalism. And it's just a shame. I mean, whether you're Baptist or whether you have no affiliation at all, this is something that we all need to be concerned about. We need to pray. If you're a Christian, you need to pray about this, that the Lord will prevent this takeover by these progressives. Personally, I mean, if it comes down to it, the church, the Southern Baptist Convention becomes liberal, I know for a fact that I would pull out. My father's a pastor, that our church would pull out of the SBC. We will have no affiliation with ungodly people. And that's exactly what you have to do. Pull out, take away your money, do not give to any of these colleges. We have a local college called Everett College where I'm from, and it's extremely liberal. They do not receive any money from my church, I can tell you that right now. These colleges that are pushing all this liberalism, this homosexuality, everything that's anti-Bible, all this crazy theology that they believe in, that is not, well, we all know if you're doing this studying about homosexuality that it's against the Bible. And this crazy mess about gender confusion, which these people are a little on the loony side. I mean, 100 years, even 50 years ago, people would have considered you to have a mental problem if you couldn't figure out what your gender was. So, we all know as Christians that this is more than just a political war. This is a war for our very souls. And this is something that we have to really pray about. But I just wanted to inform a lot of you guys what's going on about how the liberals are trying to take over the largest U.S. Protestant denomination. And we really need to be concerned about this, because when the churches fall apart, the country falls apart, because churches help uphold the moral fabric of this nation. You can't have a family, you can't have anything without the church. As much as some of you guys may distrust or dislike a lot of these blue pill pastors, even they are holding back some of the wickedness in this country. And when that goes, there's nothing holding back the wickedness that's coming. These social justice people are demonically possessed, and they are filled with demons of hatred. And when they take control of everything, and it sounds like they're trying to, you might as well say goodbye to your rights and your freedom. We've got to fight back against these monsters any way that you can. Voting, telling other people about this, about your beliefs, witnessing to people, and you got to do a lot of praying. But anyway, guys, I don't want to make this video any longer than it already is. But I just want to let you know what's going on. I hope that you will keep up with what's going on in the world, and especially in the what's going on with churches, because if you're a Christian, it's really important. Anyway, take care. God bless you. Bye.